Jake, welcome back to the Iron Mindset.
Thanks, Eno.
The first guest we've ever had, 2 appearances.
Boom.
Still a young podcast, but it's great to have you back on. You actually won the popular vote on Instagram. I did a little poll. It was yourself, Ben, Raquel, and Shane Story, I believe, and you won.
Well, I beat them in everything else, so.
Well, I mean, this is it, you know, that Mr. 1000, self-proclaimed strongest coach in Ireland. You've definitely ruffled a few feathers of that title.
I don't know why. It's the truth.
Well, do you know what? Like, let me ask you straight in. I want to get right into the good questions here. So, online, there has been a bit of like contention and back and forth between you and Jesse Moran. Yeah. For those watching at home, Jesse Moran is a lifter out of Limerick who is the highest dots and wilks. Yeah. These are scores we use in powerlifting. He is the highest of these in Ireland. And many times, I will give it to Jesse, people have doubted him. They said most recently at the most recent Abs Pro, which we held last August, they thought Jesse was going to bomb out, was going to like drop his deadlifts. He would hit his opener and miss everything else. He came third.
Yeah, man. He honestly, Jesse always performs. Yeah. He really does. I mean, I've seen him bomb in the past before he got a coach and stuff like that. But I mean, overall, Jesse's a great performer. He really is. And he's a fucking animal of an athlete.
Doesn't stop him talking shit, though.
Doesn't stop him talking shit. I mean, let him talk shit. It's okay. I am the strongest powerlifter. Like, I don't need maths to tell me I'm the strongest. I am the strongest.
So what are we basing that on?
Total.
Right.
I mean, as a totals go, I have the heaviest total, so that makes him the strongest. If I go into a nightclub and I go, hey, baby, I got the biggest stats in the country. You know what I mean? It just doesn't work. Now, that's not taken away from Jesse. Does he beat me on dots and on Wilks? Absolutely. Is he stronger than me in those terms? Absolutely. But overall, on a total, I'm the strongest.
No weight classes in the jungle and all that.
Yeah, no CPAPs, no steroids, no fucking barbells either.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. But no, like, I think that's a good point. And I think it's unironically one of the more entertaining parts of powerlifting, because in sports in general, people like try to be, even stereotypically, good sportsmen. Yeah. But I like that in the sphere of what we have at the Abs series, the lifters are not afraid to talk each other smack.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Absolutely. Like, I mean, and I like to think that Jesse and I, although we talk a bit of shit about each other every now and again, and I'll try and do it as openly as possible, I don't disrespect the man in any way, shape or form. I actually think he's a fantastic lifter. But do we talk shit about each other and push each other? Absolutely. Because I think in real terms, we both need each other in its own little pervy way to push each other and make us dig in deep. You know, that's right.
Well, I mean, I suppose I'd look at it this way. From an external point of view, like, I think Jesse is very good for powerlifting.
Would you call him a shill?
No, a heel. A heel. Like in wrestling, pro wrestling, my former path, my former career, my former hobby, whatever you want to call it, he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
People don't like Jesse Moran because he backs up what he says.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You know, he talks shit. He's not a good sportsman. But he backs it up. Like Dave Richardson, Abs Pro 2022 winner, is a good guy.
Yeah.
He says he's a good sportsman. He's a good representation of a lift.
And he talks a bit of shit too.
Yeah, but I mean, it's all in good spirits.
Yeah.
Jesse will go for the jugular.
He does. Yeah, he does.
He has no problem coming right at you or anybody else.
Yeah.
And I like that because it's entertaining. And I'll be honest, like, Jesse is one of my favorite powerlifters to watch. I think he's a brilliant quality lifter, and I think a lot of the hate that he gets either comes from people that are far outside his league, so he doesn't have to listen to what they say.
No.
And the lads like you in contention, I honestly think he makes some people insecure.
Oh yeah, for sure, man.
Because Jesse's light, he's lean, and he's super strong.
And super strong. Absolutely. I give the man props, you know what I mean? Even when I remember at Pro, I knew he PB'd by 5 kilos on his squat and his bench, and he'd been working hard for those numbers, you know, that sort of way. Like, again, and he'd done it coming in lighter than he had been.
Yep.
So, again, I have no issue with the dude at all. Do I talk a bit of shit about each other? Or we talk about it? Yeah. Because there is always going to be, in its own way, animosity. Not necessarily a nasty animosity, but its own animosity because we both claim the top spot.
Yeah.
You know?
Would you view Jesse then as a little bit of a rival in powerlifting?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a fucking great rivalry, and it's part of why I'm as good as I am.
Because he pushed it. I think he's going to be the first person in Ireland under 110 kilos to total over 1,000.
I don't think he's going to do it under 110.
He came close at Abs Pro.
He didn't.
He was close.
1,000. 925 is what he told.
925 is not that far off 1,000.
Did you ever do 1,000?
Have I? No.
No. Can you add 75 kilos to your total?
Can I specifically?
No, not you, but I mean, what I'm saying is, do I think he can total 1,000? Absolutely. Do I think he's going to do it under 110? Not a chance.
I suppose only time will tell with that one.
Only time.
Well, then looking at some of your other previous rivals in powerlifting, I know yourself and Eamon are in Eamon Hartford, Jake's former coach.
Yeah.
In prep together for Clash of the Titans, which is happening in April. We should have this podcast out before then. I'm sure everyone is highly anticipating it. But you've been training with Eamon now a while, and for a good while there, I think he was one of the people that was pushing you to be better.
Absolutely.
Just because of the standard of lifting he is. But now I think, again, this is no blast on Eamon because he's having a great training block at the moment, but we'll see a clash. I think you've kind of blown past him.
In other than deadlift, yeah. But that's not the knock on Amo. That's just the way it's kind of gone. I've been, I kind of gave myself up to coaching under Jay 4 years ago. He came a little bit late to the party, that sort of way. And Amo, as strong as he is, and he is strong, don't let anybody take it away from him, that sort of way. He may not be where I am, but he is a strong motherfucker.
Do you think he'll hit 1,000 at a clash?
I think he's going to be the only person to do it with 200 kilo bench. I'd love to see him do it. I genuinely would,
Yeah.
It's going to be a big ask for him. I think the only way he's going to do it, and I think he can do it, is 400, 210, and 380. I think that's the best way for him.
I'll say this now on the podcast, and Eamon won't mind because we've talked about it in person and I talked about it online as well. Eamon is somebody I'd like to have on the podcast to chat about these things, but honestly, you are both super heavyweight lifters, but Eamon is a whole other level. Eamon's up around the 180 mark now, even more. I've said it to him, I said, man, the studio literally cannot take you. The chairs cannot take you. We would have to organize something else for you to come in and sit down and do this, because I do eventually would love to do a panel or something with this. But I think this raises some points I'd like to discuss. Particularly, you can chime in on this.
About being fat.
Yeah, for sure. Being a super heavyweight lifter. So super heavyweight, for those at home, is everything over 120 kilos in powerlifting. That is the weight class, super heavyweight.
Well, it's the IPF. 140 for real people.
for real men.
For juicers.
So what are you sitting at right now?
Me, at the moment, 147.
147 kilos. And what height are you? Just for people at home?
I've shrank an inch since squatting. I'm 5'10".
So you're 5'10", 147 kilos.
Yeah.
So doctors would describe you
morbidly obese.
Yes.
Extra morbid.
So where do you sit on that?
Man, listen, I'm unhealthy. I'm not. I don't beat around the bush. I used to try and tell myself a lie that, I'm actually within the realm of bollocks. I done a DEXA scan there recently. And I was, I think, 30% body fat. I've done a more recent one after doing some conditioning. And I'm up, muscle mass is up, but 30% body fat is fucking fat. Let's be honest, that's what so I have some big goals to eventually bring the body fat percentage down. But overall, I'm not a healthy person. I push drugs, I push body weight, I push food. I don't sleep as well as I should. So I'm not as healthy as, maybe other people are.
Well, how does this affect your day-to-day life?
Overall, not that much.
Yeah, because I would have said this for you. I would point the finger at a lot of other powerlifters and say, you are too fucking fat. You know what I mean? You've got a lot of other powerlifters, I would say, you can't pick things up off the floor. Your bellies are so big. You just can't get up a flight of stairs without huffing and puffing. But you and I have trained together now a good, but I would say you're still fairly active, fairly mobile. You're teaching classes now in FBT
which I love doing.
Jake followed through on what he said on the last episode and has since qualified as a personal trainer and is taking up that role. So this is what I mean. You are able to live a full and complete life despite being big fat fuck. But
pretty fat fuck.
Yeah, gorgeous. But do you feel that there are is there ramifications to this decision to maintain this size?
I got about 4 or 5 years left doing this.
Right.
4 or 5 years, maybe 6 at the outside. 42, 43 is when I am going to bring my body down, no matter what it takes, back down to around 110.
Okay.
I know I'm living in an extreme lifestyle right now. I really am. Do I feel like I get around perfectly well? Yeah. Can I jump over a wall? Can I do box jumps? Can I do all that shit? Absolutely. Does it take more? Yes. But I can still do all that stuff. I can still bend over with straight legs, touch my fucking toes. It's not like I'm an immobile fat cunt.
Well, this is the reason I want to know about this more so is because I do like the culture in powerlifting that it's not like bodybuilding. It's not always about being smaller and skinnier and with more striations and more abs. You know, we can encourage people, particularly, I think it's particularly good in a lot of younger females, to embrace gaining some size, because not all size is bad. But I think it's opposite ends of the spectrum, because when you and I'm going to use yourself and Eamon and other super heavyweight lifters as the example, you start to get to that point where excess adiposity, sure, could actually potentially be adding to your total. And I wouldn't deny that. We can get into that in a second. But and this is, there's been a big movement over the last couple of years, body positivity movement. Yeah. The simple fact of the matter is, just taking out the politics, taking out the personal views and personal feelings, and just looking at facts, excess adiposity, excess fat tissue is a net negative to health.
Absolutely.
In terms of your cardiovascular health, your respiratory health, your long-term quality of life, your ability to sleep, as we've mentioned, and in the long run, your ability to engage in regular activity. Now, I think you have managed to maintain a good level of fitness, but you are aware that in the next couple of years, if you want to live into your 70s, 80s, this is something that's going to have to go.
Absolutely. And I make no bones about it, that's right.
Do you think it's going to have a knock-on effect to your powerlifting then?
At 42, 43? Yeah, obviously. That's part of... See, this is something that I've really struggled with, because, we all struggle with body image. I mean, not just little girls and not just these scrawny boys. We all struggle, including myself. No matter how fucking abrasive and obnoxious I can come across, it's still, that is an internalized thing that we all have, Why do people get jacked? Because they feel like shit when they're smaller, For me, it's hard to live in a life of being fat, so I try my best to curtail that with as much muscle as I can carry right now and staying as fit as I can. Mm-hmm. But I also love to be fucking mad strong.
Yeah.
Right? And I want to squat 500 plus kilos. So do I know that I have to be this size? Yes. So it's a constant internal battle of drop weight, squat goes down. Mm-hmm. Gain weight, squat goes up. So I need to stay in that balance of that 150 mark.
It's something Connor Campbell and I touched on in the episode I had him on. So that he uses this analogy: if you chase two rabbits, you lose both. So if you're trying to squat 1,000 pounds, mm-hmm. but you're also trying to weigh in under 130 kilos, the likelihood is if you chase both of these goals, you'll achieve neither. Mm-hmm. But then the flip side of that then is become which one is the number one priority right now. So if right now the goal is to be as strong as possible, being as lean as possible probably isn't the main goal. But you're going to try and be as strong as possible while staying as healthy as possible while being that big. I get it. And one of the things we talked about, being the size affects your sleep quality, and you have the last while been using CPAP machine. Yeah. So talk me through, firstly, how did you discover that you needed it?
Well, I've always snored. Right. Always, even before I got chunky, extra chunky, I mean. Even when I was 105, got down to 100 when I'd done the body transformation classes, all that crap, and I was super fit. I say super fit. I was super fit for me. I'd go and run a K, no problem, 2K, 3K, wasn't an issue. But I still snored like a hippo. Mm. So I think that's something that runs in my family, in the O'Reillys side of the family, and, I just snore. So I went in, when I got big then, and I went in, I'd done the sleep study, and they said, yeah, you need a CPAP. Mm. And they hooked me up with a CPAP. But now you can just go and buy one online.
That's right, yeah.
Ben done it. I think it's 500 quid, self-regulating one.
Ben is a massive advocate for people to do the sleep study and try the CPAP machine. Yeah. So this is what I would ask. Is that something you would have conversations about with other super heavyweight lifters?
All the time.
And where would you say, so for those that don't know what
they're not necessarily super heavyweight.
Yeah, this is a big thing as well. That's what I want to get into. So for people that may be listening, CPAP machines are essentially like an oxygen mask. Mm-hmm. And if I'm right in saying, it pumps oxygen into your nose and your mouth.
It pumps air.
Pumps air. So a lot of the time, whether it's with muscle or body fat, when you have a buildup of tissue around the neck and the chest, it can limit your breathing, mm-hmm. Your ability to get oxygen in. And this is only really a problem for males. Well, for the most part, obviously, if you're a super obese female. Yeah. But generally speaking, whether you're a fit male, I know Dr. Jordan Feigenbaum from Barbell Medicine uses one, who would be a super fit individual. He's a powerlifter, but does it like moto bikes and things like that, mm-hmm. as well. He uses a CPAP. And to me, that was quite eye-opening, because he would be somebody I would say
doesn't necessarily need one.
No, because he competes at about 90 kilos and he's got like a 700-pound deadlift. So he's a strong dude, you know what I mean? Yeah. Well put together, ripped, has a very good diet. So again, just for the amount of muscle mass he carries on his chest, on his neck, this is something he has to do. But I assume you've had these conversations with other lifters.
Big time. And, you know, everybody goes, oh, yeah, but the snoring's not that bad. And I, you know, I have a nap during the day or this. But even bodybuilders, should be, sleep quality is the number one.
I completely agree. From my reading online about CPAP machines, it seems to be the case that everyone that has been recommended one due to their size or their excessive snoring, and then they get one, they say it's changed the quality of life.
Changing.
Life changing. Did you notice a difference?
Absolutely. Driving home from work. No, fucking driving down the road. Put that on, you know, boom. Yeah, headaches, gone. I mean, I was headache every day. Gone. Sinus issues, gone. All that shit, gone. I leave it off for a couple of nights, I'm back to, what the fuck is going on? Brain fog, all that shit. And you sleep really good with air going into your body, with your body being supplied with enough quality air. That's what we need, you know? And it's deep quality REM sleep. You heal, you fucking, once my legs heal faster when if I don't wear it for a couple of nights after doing a squat session, my DOMs are really bad for a couple of days, everything. Why start wearing that, even if I'm not sleeping and I have it on?
Right.
When I go into that sort of dozy sleep, you know, when you're not really asleep.
Yeah, you're like a light sleep.
Yeah. Even then I snore. So when I have that CPAP on, boom, no problem.
And would you be a snorer on your back, on your side,
All
any
of
which
it.
way? And then, so for anyone, I'm sure there's people at home listening to this now that are probably like, right, there's some alarm bells going off here with the sleep thing. What are some of the red flags that you noticed in yourself first? And then how would you know to recommend that to people? Like what could they say to you that makes you go get a sleep study or maybe buy a CPAP?
Waking up tired, waking up sore throats, your partner going, you're restless all night, your breathing is heavy. Like there's like halfway through the day, needing sugar, coffees, all of it. And then when you're coming home, piling in energy drinks or coffees and still feeling like you're about to hit the roof or hit the floor. Excuse me. Then sitting at home watching TV, you have a little 10-minute, 20-minute nap and you can't sleep that night. Because it's like your body was fighting to stay awake because it doesn't want to go through this nearly dying every night.
For sure. And so, all right, I think that like really highlights that there are, as cool as it is to total 1,000 kilos and to be somebody that has all these strength accolades and these, like, you know, impressive podium positions, there are negative effects to this.
Yeah, man.
And I know that's the same with everything. Like if you're going to go to the extreme in anything, you're going to pay the price somewhere else. So you have cemented your legacy. First man in iron to squat over 400 kilos. We talked about last time. You are aiming for big things at the Clash. But like, because you've put so much of your time into powerlifting and so much of yourself into powerlifting, do you think there's other parts of your life now that you've let
Loads.
go amiss? You haven't given enough time to, you've neglected?
Loads. Family, my own family, not necessarily, I don't have kids or anything like that. Family, partner, all that stuff where they feel neglected. And it's wrong. You shouldn't be doing it, but it is what it is. And thankfully, I have very loving people in my life and who are incredibly kind and, you know, and understanding. But yeah, no, I miss out. And then financially, I was just scraping by because I was just, that's enough because powerlifting's taking more priority. Powerlifting. Got into, I feel like I found my home with regards being a PT and a coach. I get up and I want to go to work. I get up and I want to be there. Spend my time around people who have goals. Spend my time feeding off the energy of, I know that sounds mad, but feeding off the energy of people who are fucking waking up and coming in and hunting their goals down.
Yep.
It's amazing to
It's life-changing.
Yes, to surround yourself with people who are, yeah, let's get after it. And the days you don't feel like getting after it, they come in with the hunger on them and it's like, I got it. You know, man, it feeds you.
Well, think about the way I've always thought about it, because I was in the exact same boat as you like 7 or so years ago. I went from being a pro wrestling coach, I worked a couple of retail jobs, I was in management, and you get to that point where you dread work.
Yeah.
But then when you get into the fitness sphere, this like I worked in FlyFit for years, you're now working out in FPT Coolock, going into an environment where the only goal people generally have is some form of self-improvement. These people have identified a weakness or a lacking area in themselves, be it strength, be it aesthetics, be it cardiovascular health, whatever it might be, everyone's there for a good purpose. Now, I'm not saying there can't be negative ramifications to people with exercise, of course, but still, for the most part, 99% of the interactions you have are positive, 99% of the intent behind people being there is positive, and it's a much more rewarding environment to be in, because you can play a role, insignificant or massive, to each person, whether it's just the person says hello at the front desk, making people feel comfortable. I know you've hit it off with a good few of the members. People are enjoying your classes because you're dancing around like a mad bastard, which I think is probably something that people haven't expected to see from somebody like you with the reputation that you have, that you're actually quite a big goofball, you know?
Yeah, what I mean?
And I suppose, just bringing it back around to what you were saying about like having an understanding family with everything you're doing in powerlifting. Yeah, there's probably massive pieces of your life, like as you mentioned, family, even starting your own family. These are all things that, like, you know, but like, for the ages we are, these are things.
Old
Motherfuckers. These are things people may have expected, but like that, having people around that understand you're out to achieve something more than stereotypical lifestyle, and sometimes that means living a life outside the norm, and that is going to be somewhat controversial or maybe not financially the most
rewarding.
Yes. I think that's kind of a part that it does take. As social creatures, we do need people around us to support what we're trying to do. So obviously you're very lucky that you've supportive partner, supportive parent, supportive brother, sister. You know what I mean? Everyone around you does prop up what I support you.
And you and friends, very good friends. I mean, like, and I said this the last time, you were a big driving force in helping me change the way I was looking at the world. Again, you surround yourself with people who are better, and you rise to the tide. Rising tide lifts all ships and all that jazz. I used to say it about abs, and how abs was always pushing the limits, and how it helped me rise up. And, you know, in me rising, I helped to drag others. And but I never really practiced. I never really seen it in life. And then I come in and I meet you. We spend more time together. And it's contagious. Like, nah, man, just get up and fucking do. You know,
you'll know when it happens because you have a conversation that like fires you up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it could just be 5 or 10 minutes you're talking about something and you go home and your head is swimming with ideas. This, every time I come down here and I chat to Dan, I come away with more ideas. I come away reinvigorated to keep the project going, keep the Iron Mindset going, new things I want to do, new directions I want to go, new guests I want to get on. And I think it's, do you ever hear the expression, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with?
Yeah.
And I do think that's true. Maybe not in the exact way, but I do think the people you're around and the words you hear and the environment you're in and how ambitious they are really does matter. So the way I look at it is, I'm lucky in that I do have fairly ambitious friends that have a lot going on for themselves. Most of them are in the fitness world. They're all pretty strong dudes. Some of them have different projects on, like Mario does Motion Masters. Vinny's duty manager in FlyFit and has a good grasp of the commercial fitness element. He's getting more people into powerlifting. I coach Shauna, I coach Evan, I coach Chloe. So there's this good core group of people that are all keeping the boat moving, things are going in all in the right direction. Everyone's kind of got their own niche of things, you know what I mean? Like, I think Evan's a great example of a good person. This is Evan Wallace, for anyone watching who maybe doesn't know. He runs his own little PT studio at his back garden.
Do you ever see Road Trip?
That
movie Road Trip? You know where I'm going.
The little mousey dude, yeah. But like, think about it like this. Evan's 22 years old and runs his own business.
Man, I know, he's a little champ. And he's actually isn't a sweetheart of a bloke. I wish he'd go easy with those fucking knuckle dusts. Holy shit.
He loves laying into you when he sees you. But what I'm getting at here is, I think, like, naturally as humans, we're all going to have deficits in what we know, what we don't know. Like, there's areas I feel like I've excelled in life, and then there's other areas I know nothing about that I can talk to you about. Like, I knew before I got to abs, I knew next to nothing about enhanced lifting, which I now know a bit more about because I'm surrounded by people that have done it. And I think it's good to have that objective viewpoint, do you know? So I do totally think that, like, if you surround yourself with people that are kind of, like, Dan mentored me through this whole podcast saga that we're on now. And each episode will typically give me some good feedback. And I think these are the things that help drive you forward. It's recognizing that what you're doing right now and keeping that going, keep that plate spinning, and then move on to the next challenge. A lot of the time people can get stuck in a comfort zone. And I will say that I admire the fact that as a fat old man, you decided to throw yourself back into adult education.
Yeah.
You got your certificate. You made friends with your man Protein Bar.
Yeah, JFC's a good kid.
And then now you are proven quite popular as a PT, and it's still only early days.
Yeah.
So it's all very, very admirable. And I think you could have gotten caught in that niche because you are this enhanced super heavyweight lifter. We talked through some of the ramifications of, you know, using the CPAP, some of the parts of your personal life that have maybe gone neglected due to the
due to life and
due to
powerlifting.
the life that you've chosen.
Yeah.
And then you did mention, like, obviously there's been financial strain. So this is kind of one of the bigger questions I think people don't consider when they decide they're going to be an enhanced lifter, right? We talked through in the last episode the decisions around it. You just walked into a gym and Oz, and it was just a normal thing to do. So that kind of got you into it.
Yeah.
If you were to talk to somebody now, somebody same age you were when you started, what advice would you give them?
Don't fucking touch it. And do it if you want. Right? So here's the thing. If you're going to do it, make sure you're willing to pay somebody who knows what they're doing and study. Like, so get help from somebody who actually has real good working knowledge on it. Get yourself down into a lower body fat percentage, as Ben always talks about, Salt Bay, you know Salt Bay. Get yourself
Sodium
down.
King.
Yeah, Sodium King. Get yourself down into a lower body fat percentage and start low. I didn't. I started, more? Okay, give us a bit more than that. It doesn't make me stronger, right? I went about it the wrong way. In my opinion, looking back on it now, I know I did it the wrong way. And not only did I do it the wrong way, I then fucking bulked up 20 plus kilos as soon as I could, you know, that's what I... If I was talking to kids now, anybody 25, 26, 27, whatever age you are, anybody younger, I wouldn't advise at all to get on it. I mean, this is only just a personal opinion. But in my opinion, I really think reach out, pay people who have the knowledge to guide you. You know, that's what because, I mean, we're willing to get a coach for powerlifting, we're willing to get a nutrition coach, but then we just start...
Get a steroid coach.
A steroid coach? No, I'll just listen to the bro down the road.
Well, here's, like, let me ask you this direct question. Now, you don't have to give an exact figure, but is it expensive?
Yeah, but not as expensive as fucking protein powder. You just have to use more of it.
Right. But, like, that's kind of, like, just as you say, like, you're right. And ultimately, it is the individual's decision. But, like, I'm going to speak now. Look, you can call me ignorant in this one because I am not someone that's done it. But I will say this, because naturally being around the gym for as long as I have, I see the appeal.
Yeah.
I 100% see the appeal of being able to be bigger, stronger, leaner, eat more food, and ultimately do less training and get way more results. One of my friends said that to me before. He was on a cycle for a couple of years, made massive gains. It pushed his social life more. He got promoted in work because he was looking better. He was leaner. People wanted to be his friends more. So it does lend to the optics of how people see you as well and their perception of you. And then the other piece of it is when he did cycle off, so he cycled off to have a baby with his wife. And he said he has to do twice the work for half the results.
Yeah.
And he went from 110 kilos of a behemoth and dropped down to about 85.
Wow.
Because he just completely lost motivation to train. Now, he has since gotten back up over 100 kilos, looks great, performing great. I'd actually love to get him in powerlifting at some stage. He's a strong dude, but he's super ambitious, has a lot of other little projects on the go, but still, he is somebody that was quite eye-opening to me, that I could see the effect it had for him. But even so, because we lived together for a little while, so I kind of got to see what the other side of it was like. The lad ate Domino's pizza like 4 times a week and still had a six-pack. Like, you motherfucker. But the bigger thing to it to me is this, and this is what I would say if I ever talk to any of my own lifters about it, or whether it's a young lifter or an older lifter, I'd want to know what their motivations are to go on. Because I think for a lot of people, it's just that it's activate easy mode.
Oh, that's what it was for me.
And I think that is, like, don't get me wrong, I don't think there's necessarily anything altruistic about making things harder for the sake of it. And I do appreciate that the likes of yourself, Ben and Eamon, are all very transparent about it. You all speak you and Ben have both spoken very openly about it here on the podcast about your use. And I think that is honestly the best thing going forward, that people that are using it are transparent about it.
Yes.
But I still think for most people, it's going to turn out to be a net negative. I don't think they can financially support it, whatever, because it is an additional cost. And I'm not sure that the potential benefits outweigh the financial risk and the long-term potential health risk. Now, I know a good few people get off fine. They don't have no long-term health ramifications from it, but it's still a risk. It's still illegal. We still don't know enough about it. And the research can never catch up because we can't do long-term human trials. So that would be what I would say about it. But as somebody who does it, and I know you're, as you said, I know you're not necessarily advocating for it, but still.
Oh, no, I am. I mean, I love the stuff. You know I do.
You love drugs, yeah.
Yeah, I love drugs. And they're great. But again, you're right in what you're saying. Most people will never be strong enough to justify putting their body on the line for very little.
Mm.
I mean, what I have accomplished overall is minuscule, right? Okay, forced to do this, that, and that, whatever. It's minuscule, and even still, many would say, was that worth it? To me, it was. Because I was the first to do this, and I'm going to be the first to do other stuff.
For sure.
Right? But I see kids, they're taking how much to have a six-pack?
Mm.
And to feel like, and I'm just looking at it going, why? Running trend cycles, running this cycle, running that cycle. Because once you get on, well, that much got me that. Well, what if I try a little bit of this? Because testosterone has a tendency to lead us, to make us making bad decisions. Because when we're a kid, it kind of gives you a teenage brain again.
Yeah.
And it does. So you end up making snap decisions, especially the first year or two you're on it, because you don't understand that it's testosterone brain.
I think a lot of it though now, with the visibility of social media and things like that, has made it trendy. Like people, and there's a lot of visibility for people that are enhanced that maybe aren't honest about it, and it makes people want to do things to achieve this physique because they have an unrealistic expectation of what they can achieve by a certain age. And I'm not just like, naturally, I'm probably talking primarily here to 18 to 22 year olds, but I even mean for people between the ages of 24 and 30, 36 even. Yeah. I don't think it's worth it.
No.
I think most people, firstly, what is, like, again, people say I want to get stronger. What is getting stronger? Because if you already bench 100 kilos, you're stronger than most men in the world. If you can squat 140 and pull 180, you're probably stronger than like over 95% of the world's population. So I don't understand what they mean by stronger. By stronger, by what degree? Do you know what I mean? Because my question would be because this I think would be the worst reality. What if you hop on and you're still weaker than a natural in the IPF? Like, and I'll say this, I'm not going to name names, but there's like, as I'm a natural and I'm in my mid 30s, and there's lads I outlift that are younger than me, on gear, have handier lives than me, and I outperform them.
Yeah.
So I would look harder at those things first, because I think and it's one thing I wanted to ask you about as well. I think a lot of the time people shit the bed with recovery, they shit the bed with food, they shit the bed with their training intensity, and the oh shit button is gear. Oh, yeah. I had a guy message me before, just off on a little tangent here. He was inquiring about coaching, and he said he had squatted 150 and that was his natural limit, so he started on testosterone. Testosterone is, for those watching, is like a plant steroid in essence. It mimics muscle protein synthesis in essence in plants. We don't know if it works in humans yet, but this is what he started using because he had reached his natural limit.
Well, better than injecting test anyways.
Well, maybe. We don't know yet.
We don't know.
It's the same with SARMs though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we don't know. SARMs, selective androgen receptor molecules, I think. I don't know. Again, if I know even less about these.
Pussy steroids.
Yeah. It's diet steroids.
Yeah, pussy steroids.
But all these facets of training, diet, recovery, training intensity, things like that, I think that's where people fall down the most. In fact, I would point to diet and recovery as if lifters are training hard and they seem to be following a program well and they're not trending up over the course of training blocks, I would point squarely at those things. And you would be shocked at the number of people that sleep 4 to 6 hours a night, they drink every weekend, and if they're even tracking food, it's for 3 or 4 days, and then they're out having chippers and pizzas and all this bollocks the rest of the time and wondering why their training's gone to crap.
Big time, man. Like, before I joined Labs, pushed under the rugs was the main thing, right? And that's not a knock. That's just the thought process. That's what I was in. Joined Labs, and I was like, oh, I'm surrounded by people that push the work ethic. Well, I better rise. Push the work ethic. Push the work ethics. Drop the drugs. Push the work ethic. Drop the drugs. And I was down at the lowest dose I'd taken in, 3 years? And I was getting stronger than ever. Because I was fucking working hard to be around these people, to, in a kind of sad way, to get their approval.
Absolutely.
You know 100%. What I mean?
100%.
Because when I joined Abs, I was shit. I was the outcast. I was fucking... So I worked hard.
You were bottom of the social hierarchy.
Yes. So I worked hard to get to where I am in Abs, and I love Abs. And that's why, you got to work.
Yep. Like James McLaughlin, who I had on, we talked a little bit about that, about where you sit in different hierarchies, work, friends, other social outings and things like that. And I do think that I think it's based on competence. Like, so people will see you. So when you join, so this is kind of the point. It's one of the things I like about Abs, but I also see how it can be leveled as a criticism. When you walk in, you're nobody. Nobody gives a fuck what you did before, right? So Abs, for those listening, #1 powerlifting club in Europe. Don't give a shit what anybody says.
Absolutely.
We're number one, right?
We're number one.
But the point is that unless you are doing something impressive, nobody cares. And yeah, sure, it doesn't mean you're any less valuable of a member. But like, if you want to become visible to Jay Farrens, the head coach, you need to be somebody he sees showing up week after week, session after session, hitting everything to the prescribed intensity, making sure you're doing everything outside of training to facilitate growth. This is why he's so...
Or be Asian or African.
Yeah, well, I mean... and people accuse him of being racist. But anyway, the point is that it's a pressure makes a diamond, and it's somewhere that facilitates that. You, no matter who you were or what you did before, you start at the bottom and you work your way up.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So I like that aspect of it, and I think that's important, because if you are recognized as somebody who's competent and capable in that group, that means you've earned it.
Yes.
You've had to earn it. And I do, like, that's exactly, so last June I was asked to be an abs coach. And that Jay and I had been talking about it for a little while. And to me, that was a recognition of competence as a coach, because he had seen I had brought powerlifters into the sport, trained them up, gotten them to a good level, so he could see that I wasn't just a shit the bed that was trying to make money. I could actually tangibly do it.
Well, look what you done with Shauna.
Yeah.
I mean, you took Shauna from, well, Shauna was, right, all the way through every level.
Well, this is it. So what Shauna Rahman does that a lot of other people don't do, just bringing it back to the recovery and the nutrition, is I input the plan and she executes.
Yeah.
Like, to the best of her ability. I'm not saying
Terminator.
Exactly. She is like a Terminator. But I'm saying it's not as much as, it's not that I expect 100% results all the time. But if you even get 70% of the way there, that's way better than if you hadn't actioned it at all and gotten zero. And this is what I see. It's the same people that shit the bed every time are not doing the other things. Now, I'm not saying doing everything right always guarantees the result, but it guarantees more of a result than if you didn't do it.
Yeah.
Which is what happens a lot. So this is what I want to ask you.
Yeah.
How is your diet quality now?
Much better. Much better. Overall, I eat red meat for most of my meals, rice, spinach, carrots. I know that sounds really fucking... But it is the truth. Like, I eat a lot of steak. Don't get me wrong. I went from having 17-inch pizzas down to 9-inch pizzas. Right? I know that sounds funny, but those were, I found it as satiating, and went from having fat Coke to skinny to Coke Zero. Things like that. Implemented those things and pushed the water more. Magnesium when I'm going to bed, and honey. Things like that. I've improved my diet tremendously. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still some weeks where it's shite, but overall, it's way better than it has ever been. And
do you find you perform and recover better when the diet quality is better?
Here's the funny thing. Sometimes, not so much.
Right.
Sometimes when I eat like shite, my lifting's way better.
What's an example?
Like Macca's. I'll eat Macca's fucking, and my squat goes through the roof. Like, I feel stronger under the bar. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things. Whereas when I'm eating super clean, I don't feel my legs recover as fast. My body doesn't feel like it recovers as fast. So I have to push the fats a little bit more. So I end up putting butter into my mincemeat and things like that. More salt than maybe I should. Things like that. And maybe throw a Chinese in there with fucking, like a Singapore chow mein.
Right.
But I won't do it on a Saturday night, because Saturday night, if I eat too bogey on a Saturday night, I end up in a jock with a stingy arsehole on Sunday morning.
For Sunday squats. Well, so this is what I'm looking at here when it comes to the nutrition bits and pieces. Because firstly, you mentioned that you found smaller pizza just as satiating as the bigger pizza. And this is where a lot of people tend to go wrong. A lot of the time, what you want out of fast food, for example, it's not necessarily the size or the portion. It's the feeling of chewing that thing in your mouth. So sometimes people erroneously say this, oh, sugar is addictive. Sugar in and of itself does not have addictive properties. It tends to be the combination of carbohydrates and fat in the foods that it's made in that they're generally quite processed, but it's the texture that they have in your mouth. The example I give to people oftentimes is this. I had COVID in September 2021, and I lost my sense of smell and taste, right? And I had a big Oreo chocolate bar. Right. Couldn't smell, couldn't taste. But it was when I was starting to come out the other end of it and I was starting to feel a bit better. Still couldn't smell and taste. I still ate the damn thing. It was 1,500 calories of tasteless chocolate. Right? I couldn't taste, and it was the most bizarre thing. But I still ate it and I still enjoyed it. I got some takeout. I got like a chipper, like a burger and chips. And what it really backed up what tends to drive people towards their food choices, which is not so much just taste or what the food is. It's how it feels to bite into it and chew, and the consistency it takes while you chew it, which is the most bizarre thing when you really get into it, because we try to minimize why people make the selections that they do. Even you've mentioned here, when you had, in some cases, you were eating more McDonald's, you felt like you were recovering better. So I would then look at, I'm not going to do it now, but I would more look at the other things that were going on in your life. How was your recovery at the time? What other stressors did you have in your life at the time? Like, was it that having the convenience, just buying the food, eating it and going home, did that facilitate you being able to relax more? Do you get me? So we tend to, as humans, like to find cause and effect. We like a description, we like a prescription, and we like a reason for everything. When a lot of the time, shit just happens. Right, sometimes it's an accumulation of many, many, many different circumstances. Like I would be curious, right? We just talking through a lot of different things about your health and things like that, and other super heavyweight lifters. If you had the mindset that you could drop 20 kilos over the next year, but maintain your strength, if you approach training that way and not, oh, well, if I get smaller, I get weaker, I wonder if you actually would get weaker. Or is a lot of it how we narrate it to ourselves? I'd be very curious.
I'd be very interested, and definitely not going to happen. It's just, listen, man, I have a feeling like in real terms, the bench was going to drop.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. You know, I mean, you drop 20 kilos, the levers change massively. My deadlift would likely get better, but my squat, just the way I lever the squat under myself or over myself and get under it, I would imagine, because when I've been down at 135, it suffered greatly.
Right.
Now, that's not to say if a year at, say, 120, could I not bring myself up to this strength?
Yeah, like say again? You got there.
And then spent a year there.
Like getting acclimatizing to those leverages, to that position, to being that body weight.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's lots of other lifters that do it, you know.
Right.
Well, not lots, there's a few.
Right, let me ask you two questions.
Yeah.
Are you concerned about losing weight?
No. Not right now.
Do you think when the time comes you'll be able to do it?
Yes, 100%.
All right, and now the other question is a bit of a bigger one. Are you afraid to come off the cycle?
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. It's hard. Look, we tie ourselves to these thoughts, these things, these ideas of who we are. You know, so getting weak, getting pissy weak and fucking feeling mopey, feeling unmotivated, not being able to be the strongest squatter in the country. You know what I mean? Not being able to walk in at any day of the week and beat every single person in this country on squats.
Mm. So do you think your sense of identity is intrinsically tied to using gear?
Not with using gear, but with the strength that it can give me. So I suppose
it's a part of it.
It's a part of it. But I come off gear massively to like maybe a mil a week when I do come off of a peak.
So will there be a day you're not taking anything?
I'd say no. I'd say forever I'll be on some type of low dose TRT.
Well, I mean, I think TRT is a little different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like that, would that be like doctor prescribed TRT or just a low dose of testosterone?
The likelihood it'll be doctor prescribed. I will go and get everything done properly and fucking follow through course and be as consistent and healthy and live my life as best I can when I get past this part of mayhem that I'm in.
And do you think then that means you'll have to say farewell to Jake Brennan, the powerlifter?
No, I'll always be a powerlifter.
Right.
Powerlifting is who I am. It's what I'm about. I love the culture. Don't get me wrong, there's some fucking shitty parts of it, but I love powerlifting. I love everything about it. I love the people in it. Not all of you, because some of you are cunts. But
tell us how you really feel, Jake.
No, but I love powerlifting. I mean, it taught me so much about who I am. I see how it changes people when they find that they're strong. I see the way it helps. Even like Tanzibi, our favourite little Indian, right? I mean, he sounds a pound. But he came in as a piss poor little tiny dude, weak as fuck. And he's represented himself really well over the years. And he's one of my favourite little characters, you know? Yeah. And people that laugh when they see him. First thing he does, he comes up and hugs me, you know, that way?
Yeah.
And he's all at 59 kilos.
He's tiny, yeah.
Yeah. Well, like
I do like that aspect of powerlifting, that it welcomes everyone from as small as 47 kilo females all the way up to like 180 kilo males. Like there's no specific way you have to be or perform or look. But like, so powerlifting's intrinsic to who you are now. It's one of the biggest pillars in your life.
Yes, for sure.
Cool. So do you ever see it becoming like fair enough, you're always going to be a powerlifter, but would it ever be less of a priority?
Yes,
right.
Definitely. As I go into my 40s, as I change my mindset, obviously it takes a long time to change a mindset that's been there 10, 15, 20 years at that stage, 15 years at that stage when I'm going into my 40s. God, that's not that long away. But, so it will take time. But yes, definitely it'll be less of who I am and more about how I teaching, that's the way.
Well, like I can resonate with this because I was a pro wrestler for 10 years. From 2004 to 2014.
That's a long time.
That was my life. You know what I mean? Like every weekend we were traveling up and down country. I was across to Wales for it and all. We filmed for TV, the Sky Digital, the wrestling channel 432, I think it was.
Oof.
Season 1 of IWW, Whiplash TV. That was my life for years, from the age of 16 to 26.
Yeah.
Do you know? So, and don't get me wrong, if you had asked me in that period of time, will you ever not be in wrestling? I went, nope, it's my life.
Okay, fair call. So who knows?
I suppose that would be the takeaway. I totally see why people, don't get me wrong, right now I've been in powerlifting since, fully immersed in it since
2016, isn't it?
May, no, 2019.
19, was it?
That me fully immersed as a member of ABS, competing regularly, coaching, things like that. Yeah, since 2019. So the last 4 years or so. Yeah. But interested in strength sports and things like that, go a bit longer. But that's kind of the point though. It's like, I think it's, for you to achieve most things, I think there's parts of yourself you have to be willing to either sacrifice or let go of. I think that's a big thing. So I got a question today, even on Instagram, and people were, so I had athletes competing down at the February Open for the IPF, and it's 3 weeks out from IPF Nationals, which I'm competing at, which the biggest event on the IPF calendar in Ireland of the year.
The only one worth watching.
God damn it.
What it is.
But the question was did I not think it was too close to nationals for me to be down at other meets? It's 3 weeks away. But the point is this, it made me think, and this is kind of an important thing, as much as I enjoy being an athlete, and I do, and there are times, particularly as we get closer to nationals, that's going to become very high resolution. I'm going to be chasing that one rabbit. I'm going to be, that week, it's all about my competition. Maybe the 10 days leading up, it's just about my competition, right? That's fine. But the greater part of the year, I'm a coach first.
Yeah.
And I don't care if that means there's 25, 30 kilos off my total, because in the long run, no one's going to give a shit what my total was, what my squat was, what my deadlift was, whatever.
But your clients will thank you every day. Well, maybe not thank you, because some of them don't thank, but your clients need you. And
well,
that's the way it is.
You can tangibly add value to somebody's life just by being there.
Yeah.
They all could have gone down to Limerick and they all could have lifted and it would have been fine. But I went and I was there.
You held a hand.
Exactly. So for some people, and this is one of the reasons I love powerlifting. Raquel and I talked about it. For some people, it's not even their first meet wasn't just their first meet. For many of them, it was their first ever sport.
Yeah, I suppose when you say it like that, and you don't even think of it, we've been playing sports since 4 and 5 years old. I don't think of it as other people stepping in their 30s doing their first sport of any kind.
So this is the big picture thing for me. Yeah. Sure, I could have probably put an extra 10 kilos on my squat last week had I done it in abs instead of in a nearly empty facility on a Friday night, a day after my heavy deadlift. Sure, I could have. But the fact that I was able to be there for 6 people when they needed somebody there, maybe not fully needed, but just nice to know you've got somebody in your corner is massive. Yeah. And that I would take that any day of the week over fucking 10 kilos on a squat. Fuck that. So that would personally be what I would say to you now as you step more into the world of being a coach. Yes, you can still be Mr. 1200, right? You can still be that. You can still aspire to be that. But it's okay every now and then to take the foot off the gas of having to aspire to be this thing.
Yes. And
lean into this other role, because I think, at least in my experience, in many ways, it's more rewarding.
Already I see it, man. Already I see it. Like when I see one of the girls, Jenny Lee, she benched, I think, she didn't even know I put it on, 32.5 kilos. Her best bench prior to that was 20, just the bar, and I whacked it on there and she smoked it.
Yep.
And the absolute delight in her face, for me, made my day. And those are the little things I've always loved, why I've always loved helping people, because even with my sister, I load the bar up, or the leg press, 120 felt heavy. I can't do it. I think we got her doing leg press in 220 and she was fucking flying it.
Do you think the fitness industry now, do you think it shortchanges females sometimes?
Oh, man. Women as well seem to do it as well to women. Women PTs do it to other women. It's weird. They oh no, that's a little bit too heavy. You're close to your period. Don't do it. Fuck off. Just load the bar and let's go. Do you know what I mean? The girls are crazy strong. If you tell them they are, they'll just fucking send it.
Yeah. I think sometimes, I don't think it's like specifically a female thing, but I do see what you're saying. I think sometimes our roles as coaches isn't to be there to tell people what to do. It's just to help people get out of their own way.
Yeah.
Because so often you'll see that there's so many self-limiting beliefs, not just on weight people can lift, but how adherent they can be to a diet, how many times a week they can show up. Like, there's this idea in training and fitness. People are like, oh, are you going to kill me now in this workout? And like, oh, you know, he's like, oh, my legs are burning. It's like, I don't want to hurt you. I want to show you what you are capable of with a little bit of discipline.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And my role here is to help you avoid these pitfalls that many people fall into when they start. Like, they under-eat, overtrain, under-recover, focus on the wrong things. It's like, look, you're, like you mentioned, you helped this lady add 12.5 kilos to her bench press. She probably went in anytime she was doing it and just thought, the bar is just what I lift. I can only lift the bar, without ever testing those waters. Because maybe that's all she needed was the permission to go.
Yeah. And Jessie, she was, when I first tried my hand at being a coach a couple of years ago, Jessie was my first client. She was my first again this time. And week prior, I think she barely dragged up 60 kilos. She tripled 80 kilos the week next week, you know. Now, not as clean as a power lifter, but she's only her second time deadlifting.
We talked about this, yeah. You and I were texting. I think that Jesus, don't take down the whole studio. So this is an important distinction. When it comes to, and Tristan and I talked a lot about this on our last podcast, there's this distinction. In powerlifting, we are trying to be hyper specialized at three things.
Yeah.
Three things. That's it. Like, everything that, as you said, this was brilliant. Your spearhead is powerlifting. Your spearhead is these three things. But you've got all this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Got all that shaft, still the rest of it.
Yeah, you've got all these other areas that you can delve into. And like that, at the end of the day, for this lady, pulling 80 kilos off the floor is a massive display of strength.
Massive.
Now, yeah, if we were to dissect this of how efficient we can make it on a powerlifting basis and lockouts and things like that, sure, great. But like, for the average person who's just trying to be fitter, stronger, leaner, perform better, move better, feel better, it's not about how you train, it's that you train.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care if it's yoga, Pilates, running, spin class, circuit class, powerlifting, bodybuilding, weightlifting, CrossFit. As long as you are moving, you are doing more than the vast majority of people. You've already taken proactive steps to improving the quality of your life and the person that you are. And I know that's something that we've talked about that, and you've managed very impressively, I will say, especially given that you're still quite new as a qualified coach. You've managed to make that distinction between the standards you hold yourself to as an athlete in this very niche sport versus now you're working with the general public. They don't need to do the things you do because they're not trying to be what you are.
No. And that's where, and understanding that, and every time I take a new client on, unless they specifically want to be a powerlifter, I just go, let's just get through it. Let's see where we're at. We find our way and we'll adjust as we go.
Yeah. It's the best way to play it. Right. You're, again, new days in coaching, but like, I'll tell you this. So since I had you on the podcast last, and I think now as you speak more publicly and people get a bit more nuance behind who you are, do you think you can do some shifting of perception for what would have been previously a pretty negative reputation?
Well, I am trying to be less abrasive. I'm trying to be less sandpaper-esque, you know?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I used to find great hilarity in watching people freak out about me, you know, because it is funny, because it's this tiny little window that you're seeing on a box, and like, he's this, he's that. People forming opinions on you before they even know you.
Mm-hmm.
Like Talor, she's told me herself, like, she had formed an opinion on me. If for anybody who doesn't know, Talor is in abs. She's sound as a pound.
Great lifter as well.
Great lifter as well. She's strong as hell. She came from
Trinity Barbell.
And another bunch of pretty good lifters, you know?
Well, so, and again, for nuance here for people listening, a lot of the colleges in Ireland have powerlifting, like, powerlifting societies, they form their own clubs, and usually these clubs will then be feeders into the bigger clubs.
Yeah.
You know, so Talor had previously been a member of Trinity Barbell and was an affiliate then of Odyssey Strength.
Yeah.
And then has since joined ABS. But you had a reputation before she came in and had already formed her opinion on what you would be like. Talor is a young lady attending Trinity College, phenomenal junior lifter who was actually also competing at national soon, and so had been pre-warned about you.
Yeah, and that's okay, you know. Listen, but again, she said it herself, straight to my face. You know, nothing like, you know, they said on the tin.
Yeah,
you know. And listen, I don't want that. That was trend, Jake. That was, you know, there was a negative that I used to draw on energy from being in that darker level of crazy. I mean, so some of what I've tried to do is be a lot calmer in myself, you know, this constant, I used to dig in deep to fucking find this self-hatred, you know, and this putrid fucking rage that I used to try and dig up, and it ended up showing itself in so many aspects of my life, because that was how I fucking figured out I could be strong.
Well, it might be, I've heard this about like these sorts of things, this like self-hatred or anger or whatever you're dwelling from, this vulgarity might be an effective fuel source in the short term, but it turns quite toxic.
Absolutely.
And it can poison different aspects of your life.
And it did. And it's something that I will forever be patching. You know, that's the way. Well, not forever. You know, eventually people just got, you know, just move on. Like, fuck it. Yes, you can't change yesterday. You can't change 2 seconds ago. We can only move forward, you know.
Well, I would say this as well. Like, I think it's, and look, we all do it. Everybody judges things all the time. They judge other people. And I think it's a good thing that, because this is kind of a thing now, oh, you can't judge people based on X, Y, Z. You absolutely can. And judgment is how we self-preserve. We have to make an assessment of other people and situations for our best interest. It's
Absolutely.
better to judge somebody negatively and be wrong than not judge them appropriately and find out the bad way. You know what I mean? It's, you know, or even if you judge them and you're right, well, fair enough, you got a good preamble. But I'd rather assume you were a prick and then meet you and say, Jesus, he was sound, than assume you were sound and find out later that you're a backstabber. You know what I mean? Like, you are a prick. But
no, being a prick is fine.
But in any case, this is one of the bigger things. I think it's totally fair to level criticism at anything you've said or at anything anyone has said.
Yeah.
Be that online or in person, whether it was an invalid opinion, something stupid to say, or just being an asshole. I think it's totally valid to level a criticism at that. I think where people tend to slip up nowadays is they turn it into an ad hominem attack. I don't like your opinion. I don't like that post you made. So you're a racist. You're a bigot. You're a homophobe. You're all these labels you're a misogynist, whatever. I can label you as this because you said a thing I don't like.
Yeah.
So rather than dispute your point, I'm going to attack you, which I think is a problem.
Very much so. Very much so. But again, a lot of us fall into that trap of, well, we can't count, as we were speaking about it earlier, I can't counter this. Fuck, what do I do? Oh, well, fuck you.
Yeah. Have you found a bit of that? Like, I know Hercules is quite good for setting people off.
Yeah.
Have you found you have been on the receiving end of like personal attacks based on the things you posted or things you've said or your opinions held?
Probably a little bit. Well, who cares?
You don't care?
Man, listen, I try and move on from all that crap, you know. People are always going to hate, you know, and when you become, I mean, right, Jesse, for example, Jesse Moran, he loves it. He thrives on winding people up. He really does. And he sometimes has a tendency to not deal with it well when they come at him back. But overall, he loves to get a rise out of it.
So you're saying he can give it, but he can't take it?
I didn't say that. You said that. No.
So what you're saying is,
No, he does. He does have a tendency to enjoy irking people because that's why he posted.
For sure. But I think you could accuse a lot of people online of that.
Yeah.
That they're very good at putting it out, very good at dishing it out, very good at being the first person to call a name or level of criticism, but can't take it back in. And I think that stands to not being able to back up your points or back up your stances. So 2 things I want to ask you. One is, do you think you take criticism well? I think you have a thick skin. It's
getting thicker. I used to actually be a very sensitive little Sally.
Do you think that's why you were so outwardly
abrasive? Absolutely.
But the moment it was put back on you, you couldn't handle it?
Well, I could handle it, but not as well as I thought I could.
Right.
So something that I've worked on and have been working on myself is to be a little bit more open about the idea that, yes, I am fat. Yes, you can. Whatever. Who cares? You say something mean. What's the words going to do? I'll still sit in you and crush you. Do you know what I mean?
For sure. But then that brings me to the second question. Based on all this and the reputation, like now that you're in an interpersonal role, and don't get me wrong, I don't think it's really going to negatively affect you, but still, just looking at the greater whole, do you regret anything you've said?
Some of the posts, yes. Some of the things I've said, not necessarily regret, because you know what, I just fucking regret, man. I definitely could have not said, but I did say them. Because I'm not going to live in regret, man.
Yeah, for sure. Like like we've discussed off the mic, like I totally understand. You don't have to have an opinion that everyone's going to like.
No.
Like, there's things you've posted in the past that I've
Who the fuck wants to be vanilla, man?
For sure. And no, totally. Like, this is the point. I think it's totally fine to have opinions that are not popular. Like I've said, like I was saying, you've posted things before I've disagreed with. You and I have talked about things we disagree on a good few times. But we're able to do it where we just look at the point and talk about it between us. I think where people tend to go wrong is assuming that because they don't like your point, you're the problem. But in saying that, I do also think you have a responsibility if you're going to have any kind of a presence, whether it's as a strength coach, as a PT, or as a abs powerlifting athlete. I think you do have a responsibility for how you deliver your message.
Absolutely.
I think moderating the language you use, how you deliver it, you can still say the point you want to say without trying to set off everybody's alarm bells. And I do see the joy in it.
Yeah, no, and it is funny, but I have tried, and I am getting better at all times to try and curtail that sort of what I find funny isn't necessarily funny to people because it's just winding them up. It's like you have a little Jack Russell, you wind them up and get them cats.
Yeah,
that's what it's like. That's what it was like doing that to people for me.
So you're going to moderate your message more now?
Yeah. What message would that be?
Whatever it might be. Like, so even now, like, think about it being on the podcast. I think you've given fairly clear and candid views on, being somebody who's a heavyweight, somebody who uses steroids and the effects that's had on your life. You've essentially just owned up to the fact that, like, yeah, I'm afraid to come off the gear because that will impact my strength, which is integral to my sense of identity.
Absolutely.
I suppose then, like I pointed out with my past, I think there's a chance over the next couple of years those priorities could change.
Oh, for sure.
Like, that's reality for most of these things.
Like look at Ben Crockwell, for example.
Yep.
I mean, his business, which, and let's be honest, is fucking thriving. And
Better Man Project.
The Better Man Project. And I mean, you see people all around the country trying to fucking copy the idea because, it's easy to ride the coattails of what Ben has really pushed.
Well, do you know what I think a good lesson we can all take from Ben is?
Well,
for anyone that is in a business where you sell a service, or just as somebody that is online trying to coach people to provide a product or whatever it might be, Ben offers value and asks for nothing in return. He makes clear and concise informational videos, be there those reels or posts, where he gets to the point. He's not trying to blind you with science. He's not trying to blind you with research. He says, try this. This is what I've tried. These are the supplements I take. Here's why C-dipping worked for me. Now, does that mean, like, personally, do I agree with absolutely everything he posts? No. But I agree with the vast, vast majority of it because he is a primary example of how adopting daily habits, it's not talking about who you want to be. It's doing the things now that accumulate into just becoming this thing. Do you know what I mean? So he's a successful business owner. He has a lovely girlfriend who, shout out to Bonnie, who just got herself in phenomenal shape after having a baby. Holy shit. That discipline and dedication is
good arse.
Out.
Wow.
You just totally derailed my train of thought. But still, the point stands, just in though, and I know the joke is, geez, they bleed and kill each other. But look, they work as a team.
Absolutely.
And they have a great life, they have a great kid, and Ben's business is only getting bigger. I think 2023 is going to be a massive year for the Better Man Project.
Oh, man.
From what he and I have discussed together, I know he's taken a step back from powerlifting, which I think for his business is a really good decision.
Yeah, I miss him as a training partner.
For sure.
I miss him as a training
Ben,
partner.
to me, exemplifies what powerlifters can be.
Yeah.
So, and like, again, like it or not, I'll say this, I think Jesse Moran does as well.
Absolutely.
Whatever about what he has to say, but I mean, they represent that you don't need to be an incredibly super heavyweight lifter to be incredibly strong. Now, I'm not taking away from your achievements, Eamon's achievements, big belly squats, any of these other super heavyweights.
No, I know.
Ray Williams,
Yeah, I know you're not. It's a fact. I mean, you look at Jesse, he is a fucking freak. Yes. He really is. I mean, the grit that man shows to put up those big squats when he looks like he's about to fucking shit his spine out is unreal. And the fact that he hit a 5 kilo PB 8 or 9 kilos lighter than he'd been in years, at a competition is huge.
For sure. Do you know, can I ask you this then? Like, so we've seen a shift in the time you've been in powerlifting. Previously, powerlifting was like this gritty underground, like outlaw sport, like the West Side Barbell-esque era. But has now, as time has gone on, the sport's gotten more popular. I would say we're still in a bit of a golden age. Some people say in the States it's not anymore, since the USAPL has become not part of the IPF. And then over here, they say maybe 2021. But I think for how visible it is, how many people are involved, how quickly Ab Series sells out all the time.
Oh my God.
You know, the IPF is doing really well. They've run more opens this year, I think, than most other years. So I think the sport is growing phenomenally. So the perception of powerlifting, I think, is shifting from these big, massive dudes slapping the shit out of each other, you know, punching each other around before they go out for an attempt or whatever, to like the more clean cut look of the International Powerlifting Federation. You know, the team singlets, the quiet venues, you know, the very clinical approach to lifting. Where do you stand on that? As somebody who probably resonates more with the West Side way of doing things.
I like a lot of what the IPF offer. I like that it's international. Everybody has the same bar, blah, 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 blah. I think it sucks balls the way that they fucking change the bench rule because of fucking, I see little cooks crying online like, oh, the girls after arch their back. Who gives a fuck if she can arch?
Well, I suppose people listening at home may not know the IPF recently changed the degree of where the elbow can sit in relation to the shoulder, because some lightweight females were taking advantage of their flexibility. They've basically owned up to the fact that they changed this rule because of negative comments they were receiving on Instagram from people that aren't even in the sport. But I suppose that then also echoes back to the ramifications of people being on social media that maybe can't use it. That there aren't. I'm a firm believer you never blame the tool. Social media is a phenomenal tool, but you have to be well put together to use it. But still, I agree with you. I think I don't think it's necessarily IPF, but I think the approach of having lifters that look like either normal or very healthy people, like some of them are quite jacked, some of them are quite normal proportioned people competing in strength sports, opens it up to a much greater variety of people. Like if we even look at female powerlifters, Steffi Cohen, for example, like great lifter, but I don't know many girls that want to look like Steffi Cohen.
No, they all want to look, you know, pretty much like the likes of Louise or Lada or Emma.
These are all Irish powerlifters.
Girls that I know, you know, that's right.
But again, but this is what I'm getting at, just to preface it. It's not that there aren't people that think, like, I think Steffi Cohen's outstanding.
Yeah.
Like, outstanding athlete. Same with, if we keep it close to home, Laura Vogelsang. Fantastic athlete.
Savage lifter.
But that's what I'm saying. In terms of the popularity and the optics of the sport, people are going to relate more to
the natural women.
Yeah, but I would say the same for most men.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and look, I get the comeback from most bodybuilders. Like, if I say like Jay Cutler, things like these big massive dudes, Ronnie, like personally, I would never want to be that shape. Now they'll say, well, you never will. Yeah, true. But like, don't have the genetics for it. I'm not willing to take the steroids to do it, and probably couldn't work to that same capacity. But I think most people have more value in a more well-rounded physique. They want to be lean, they want to be somewhat muscular. Yeah. But I think going to any form of excess is where people start to get turned off. And I think that's why the IPF does well. But I think that is coming at the cost to a degree of lifters like yourself. Like I know we've spoken about it before. Like you're not a sponsored athlete, yet you're one of the best lifters in Europe.
Yeah. That's okay.
But I think there's three primary reasons for that, right? And come at me if you think I'm wrong about any one of them. One is your reputation. Two is the fact that you are very openly enhanced.
Yep.
Right? Which I know doesn't limit everybody, but I think in this particular case. And three, I honestly think part of it is because you're male. And you're in your mid-30s.
Yeah.
And that's not to say I think females are just given opportunities. Well, some of them are given opportunities just because they're female. But I think it is more aesthetically pleasing for companies to sponsor younger, fitter, natural athletes. I think it is a better story and it's better optics for them. And the optics of things matter. Your man that you met on your course, I don't know his real name, Protein Bar.
James.
I guarantee he's probably got a couple of sponsorships now.
Yeah, I think Protein Bar sponsor him.
My Fitness Pal. Or My Protein.
My Protein, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can see why though.
Yeah, because he's brilliant. And he's like brilliant for them. I don't know his stuff. Like, I mean, it's not a knock on the lad. I don't watch his videos. I don't watch his TikToks.
Me neither. I don't.
Like, but I mean, He's got 500,000 viewers or followers on TikTok. I don't know what that means, but like,
it must be good.
Yeah, it must be good because he's paid.
He's visible.
He's visible.
But this is the point. So do you think those three things are what hurt you?
The reputation, not so much anymore, because I've working hard to counteract that and come across as a better, more rounded, more amenable kind of person, which I really am for the most part. Trent Jake, he's dead. Right, I killed him.
Until you shit the bed 3 weeks out.
Oh, shut your face. No, I'm stronger than ever. I really am. Trent Jake is dead.
Right, so it's not reputation.
Yeah. Am I, because I'm a dude? Partly, yeah. I mean, not partly, it's massively. I'm not overly attractive, you know what I mean? I'm not a minority, which is the truth, you know what I mean? That's not a knock on anybody. I'm not a minority, you know what I mean? I'm juicer. So, you know, you just don't sell as well. I mean, when they sponsored Big Z with SBD, that's fair because he's fucking Big Z.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. Barry was sponsored by SBD, good looking, best bencher in Ireland, you know what I mean?
He's natural.
Natural. Mark Stell, Listis, a few of those people, like they deserve it in the sense of they work hard, but what have they accomplished? Okay, Listis now has accomplished a lot. Barry had at that time too. But overall, I mean, when they got sponsored, what had they accomplished? You know, that's the way.
Yeah.
But again, as you say, optics matter.
Yep.
And for them, they sold. I mean, Mark Stell's a good looking dude. You know what I mean? Listis is a good looking chick. She's built like a tank and fucking lifts like a fucking forklift.
She's also very funny.
And she's also funny.
Like her on... I know I've spoken about. I'm going to have to get her on the podcast at some stage, but
she still only has like 7 dance moves though.
I don't give a shit, man. Like but this is what I'm saying. She has an audience that she can appeal to, and I think she knows how to come across like her training is serious, but also she doesn't take herself too serious.
No, she's a goofball,
which I really respect because I think, frankly, my biggest criticism of powerlifting is too many lifters take themselves way too seriously.
Oh, man, yeah.
Like we're lifting weights.
We're like heavy circles.
We're like pseudo athletes. You know what I mean? We're athletes, but very not in a very specific sphere.
Fatleets.
Yeah, fatleets. You know what I'm saying? So I really don't like when powerlifters take themselves overly seriously.
Well, I'd like to apologise to all my fans for missing my deadlift.
You get the fuck out of here. The apologies after bombing out at a meet or having a bad meet. No one gives a shit but you and maybe your mum. You know what I mean? Who just hopes you had a good day.
And your missus if you're going to beat her.
She doesn't give a shit either. Like, but let's be honest. But this is, it's all a good point though. And you're dead right. I think those athletes all share something in common. Young, aesthetic, good look for the company, good look for the sport. But I honestly think it's because they've got a clean rap sheet. Like, you know what I mean? I think you tend to embody what people would stereotype as toxic masculinity. You know what I mean? But straight up, I think that, and I think you'll agree, there is a perception now if you're in any way a hard male
that
you're bad.
Yeah.
It's a bad thing to have. Whereas, you know, more people that put across more sensitivity are viewed as better.
So you're saying Mark Stell's very sensitive looking?
No, but he doesn't post online.
I'm joking. No, man, listen, I am. I do. I suppose, as you say, have a toxic masculinity, but I don't think of it as toxic. I just think of it as like, that's who I am. And,
yeah.
You know,
I think you're toxic, but it's nothing to do with your masculinity. No, but for real, like, I mean, you and I have talked a little bit about it. I do think, look, I think it's important that these conversations are had.
Yeah.
Like, I had James McLaughlin on, as I mentioned. He talked a lot about his own journey through his mental health and how he's come out the other side. And I think those conversations are important because I do think awareness is good. But at the same time, I don't think we need to look at our more stoic and lower neuroticism men as though they're bad.
Listen, at the end of the day, I've been at the end of a pair more times than I can count. Actually, about 3 times. 3 times in my life, at the end of a pair or the end of a rope, questioning everything. Right? So it's not like I'm sitting here going, like, oh no, I don't have fucking weaknesses. I've been there. I've been worried at the edge of, will I take it or not? I didn't. Suck it up, move forward, keep pushing. I've had pills handed to me by the doctors, antidepressants, didn't take them. I said, fuck that, I'm not taking this medicine because I can pull myself through this. Not because I am strong or because I can. I don't need to let this black dog hang out of my bollocks. if I keep feeding this little black dog hanging out of my bollocks, he's going to become a big black dog or a white dog or whatever. I don't mean it like, you know what I mean? He's going to become a fucking big shadow swinging out of my bollocks. So stop feeding the cunt.
Mm-hmm.
I see guys and they feed their depression. It becomes their part of their fucking personality. I see guys online. Oh, it's okay to be depressed. Fuck off, man. So what if you're depressed? Don't keep talking about it. Stop pumping energy into your depression. Suck it up. Move forward. Get strong. Live life as best you can and fuck as many chicks as you can. Do you know what I mean? Like
the keys to happiness with Jake Brennan.
The keys to happiness with all males. It really is getting strong, living life, being around your peers. You've told me that. You've shared that one with me. And being around my peers has made me a happier person.
Mm-hmm.
Being around people who make you want to be better makes me a happier person.
Yeah.
Being around, you know, chicks and whatever. Like if you're out there, get pussy, do whatever it takes to make yourself feel better.
Well, do you know, one thing I'll say about this, just to kind of go off on that tangent, I did, as I mentioned, speak to James about it a small bit. I think for a lot of lads, and I'm speaking specifically about men here, I'm not coming at the ladies. There's a whole other host of things that could be there that I am not privy to.
Yeah.
Because of
your genitalia.
I'm a dude, right? So I think most lads in life want to have like a meaning for getting out of bed, a purpose for getting out of bed.
We need it.
And they need to have something they're getting after in life. And there's a common expressions like the chase is better than the catch. You know, the journey is more important than the destination, things like that. And I think a lot of this comes back. I think these things come back to, we need to have a motivator to get up and get after it. And the reason we tend to do a lot of things in our lives is for more status, better reputation, more of access, more access to women, more access to whatever your motivator is. It might be other men, who knows?
Yeah.
Right.
But and it's okay if it is. I don't mind whatever they want to be.
More power, my brothers. But still, this is what I'm getting at. I think what happens a lot of the time now for a lot of lads is, and I'm not understating the prevalence of anxiety, depression, and other chronic mental illness that does exist, right? Or mental disorder, whatever you want to call it. But I think we tend to sedate lads a lot. So video games, pornography, junk food, right? Because, you know, if you, instead of going out and like even, and this is like a bro science appeal to nature bullshit, but like when you can satisfy your sexual urges on your phone screen, when you can satisfy your need for adventure and conquest in Call of Duty, and when you can you can satisfy your need to hunt and provide and provision through Just Eat, what's the reason to get out of bed anymore?
Zero.
You know, so that you get these small dopamine hits throughout your day that, yeah, they're like drip fed to you, but it gets to that point when you're young. This is why I think when kids are younger, they love video games because it's this massive dopamine hit. But as you get older, there's this impending dread when you're wasting time in front of a computer screen. And I think lads start to feel it as they come into their 20s. And same when they watch porn. I think there's like a feeling of disgust after, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, and I again, it's not that any of these things, having your dominoes or cracking one out every once in a while or playing a video game with your mates. I'm not saying these things are intrinsically bad, but I think it's when they're a replacement for what you want to do in real life. I think that's when you see, as you mentioned, these posts online where people are so deep in the other end of what's going on in their heads that it becomes part of their personality. It becomes part of their identity. There's so much so that they're posting about it online, you know? And I think when everything about you is strictly intrinsic, like everything is intrinsic, it's all inside us.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's not you can point to that you offer in value other than talking about what's going on in your melon. I think that is definitely a massive red flag. There's probably a few things that could be worked on. Again, it's a hugely broad topic.
Massive.
And I don't know if we're the people to discuss it, to be honest.
Meatballs.
Because this is what I mean. In all the ways, I do think there's problems that are explainable through those forms of sedation I mentioned. I do think there's genuine, whether it's chemical imbalance or childhood trauma, there's genuine reasons people go through these things. And I don't want to understate those. And the reason I'm really explicating that point is because, like we talked about, people tend to attack you on the internet like, irony and said mental illness isn't real.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. I know. I've met people, as I said 10 times already. Had James on, and he and I have talked candidly about it off camera as well. And I can see how we're two lads in same field. We compete in the same sport, two completely different mindsets, and that is that's our unique experiences growing up. It's our predispositions as adults. He's higher in neuroticism. I'm lower. You know what I mean? He has. It's just the way we are. He's slightly more introverted. I'm slightly more extroverted. These are all personality traits that make people up. And one thing I would really put over is, as much as I want those conversations to happen, and I think they're important, I do think it's also important to have people that are willing to talk about the other side. Like, so if you're somebody like that who embodies, you know, the more like toxic traits of masculinity, I think it's all right for it to exist.
Yeah, man. Like, I believe that depression's real. Like, because I know, because I've been on it. I've had this fucking thing swinging out of me. Some days I can barely get out of bed sometimes. You know what I mean? But you give me a purpose, and now I've got PT, being a coach. I've got fucking a great lineup of 2 competitions this year. I've surrounded myself with good people, and every day is easier to get out of bed. And when I didn't have it, it was hard. I mean, 3 times between at the end of a pier or at the end of a rope, questioning my life. And what's the point? So it's not like I'm sitting there going, it's fucking made up. I know it's real. I know what it's like.
You've experienced it.
Yeah. So don't sit there and I'm not saying you, but you can't sit there and say, oh, well, you don't know, Jake. I fucking do know.
Well, I think, you know what I think the big message is there? You're somebody who went from and that's like, firstly, thanks for admitting that, because those are hard things to talk about for people, you know? So that's like pretty much the bottom of the barrel. That's the lowest you can pretty much go, you know, that you're thinking about self-deleting, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To have achieved the things you've achieved. And even in the past couple of months, a complete career change.
Yeah.
You know, reinventing.
As a fat old man.
Yeah, as a fat old man. But the thing is, we said that because I had said it to you months ago. You've so much runway in front of you that you don't even realize. You can change anything, and I think that would be the biggest message about that. Because again, like I said, not diminishing male mental illness thing. There's 1,000,001 reasons why it could be a thing. But like for anyone in those scenarios, and with anything, you're like we talked about training people in the gym. Self-limiting beliefs tend to be where people can grow out of with the right guidance, with the right action, with the right mentorship, the right coaches, or like you've talked about, being surrounded by the right people.
By the right people.
I think this is going to be your biggest year.
I hope so. No, I don't hope so. I know so. Back in the squat bar, back in the mono, back with a squat bar, first time in nearly 2 years.
For sure. But I mean, not just as a lifter. Like, so I think this is going to be your biggest year in powerlifting. #1 Clash of the Titans. #1 at Abs Pro in August. I think it's going to be a phenomenal year.
I think this year is going to take off for me, and I'm going to push hard into it.
But I also think, career-wise, I think you're going to start setting yourself up for what will be the career for the rest of your life. And I think, even on a more personal level, I think you're going to get start trending towards your healthiest. And I think you're going to start trending towards like your most like satisfied and fulfilled, and have a much more robust life outside of lifting.
Which I'm already on my way to doing.
Yeah.
I'm facing into the storms, man. And that's a big thing. We forget, we all run away from storms. Face into it. I've ran away from them for years.
Yeah.
Face first into it, man. And the storm washes over you much faster.
Straight up, man. Grow outside your comfort zone.
Yep.
You know, you get, like you said, face into the storm. Like we are forged in hardship.
Absolutely. Especially men.
Yeah.
Especially men.
You know, I think that's a great message to end on. We've done about 83 minutes.
Okay.
That flew.
It
Jake,
fucking did fly.
thank you very much for coming back on.
Thank you very much, Eno.
Appreciate it.
Cheers, brother.